Hey everybody, it's Marvin back again with Leigh here at the RynoWorx booth. This is MPE 2020, and Leigh said you got to get over here and check out our new machine. So a lot of you guys seen me use and seen people use the MA-10 Pro, correct?
Yep.
And now we got a new one. So Leigh was starting to tell me everything about it, and I made him stop because he was doing such a good job that I didn't want him to have to say it twice. So here we go. He's going to tell us and show us some features. I'm going to flip the camera around a whole bunch. So that way we can check stuff out and kind of dig the camera into what he's talking about. So here we go. Leigh, tell me about the new one, the Elite.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess a little bit of context here. So for anyone that has used our equipment before, everyone's familiar, or most guys are familiar with our RY10 Pro, which was our first kind of MA-10 style unit with an internal burner.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we're coming out with the Elite, which is essentially, we built upon that foundation of the internal burner, and then we kind of just went nuts with detail and started kind of taking all the feedback from the last 5 years of the Pro to put into this. So the fundamentals are that there's actually hundreds of changes to this, but I'm gonna focus it around the core of the things that matter.
Yeah.
And it's essentially Rhino Valve, Rhino Dash, and Ergonomics.
Sure. Yeah. So we'll you go ahead with that. I'm gonna get the camera flipped around so we can show these guys what you're talking about with the ergonomics, because the handle is adjustable, and I love that because I'm short and fat and it fits me well. So let's get going on that.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right, Leigh, tell us what we're looking at.
So we're gonna start with ergonomics. So let's start with the handlebars, because the biggest change outside of, well, there's a lot of changes, but biggest change ergonomically is the bars. We redesigned the bars from rolled tube, which Marvin will show you kind of with the old bars.
Yep.
Simple, flat tube, no adjustability.
Right.
To these really cool angled flat tube bars that kind of coincide and have kind of these cool curves. These bars have a full 8 inches of adjustability going up and down. The one that we're looking at here are at the top range. And this machine over here, which is another Pro, you can see comparatively, there's about a 6-inch difference. These are sitting around the mid-range. They'll go down another 2-3 inches.
That's crazy.
So for mid-sized guys like me that like a higher bar, or for shorter guys, we got you covered.
Yeah. Now you were starting to tell me about the handle adjustment. Let's check it out.
Yeah. So I mean, we added a secondary bar down here. We did this because we didn't want the total width of the bars to get too wide. I mean, It gets awkward to grab things. We wanted everything to stay kind of right in kind of at a comfortable arm's length.
Makes sense, yes.
You got your agitator right there, your bars, your valve. So that's kind of the first observation. As far as the actual controls themselves, you can see that we got a spring here.
Yep.
Well, that spring tension can actually be adjusted higher or lower. So I mean, depending on whether you you want your valve to smash shut and you want a lot of tension on it.
Yep.
Or if you want to remove the tension, altogether and just manually control your valve, because you're working a long day and you don't want to, it gets tiring, right? You're on and off that valve all day.
It does.
You may want to have no spring tension and just let it, naturally do its thing, right? So that's kind of a nice feature. You got about 6 different adjustment pins here for being able to do that.
So what about the dashboard as far as the readout and everything else that guys can expect here?
Yeah, so the biggest change, and this kind of goes back, this is context again, but for anyone that's had a Pro, we can go back to the Pro for reference, but you can see the old Pro had the burner all along the front of the machine.
Yep.
So we had all these controls. You had to kind of go down to the front of the machine to light it. The biggest challenge we had here is that, you couldn't see the actual face of your burner, and you guys bash them into a curb or break the controls. And so we kind of fixed that by kind of bringing around all the controls. You'll notice on this machine there's nothing on the front, so this means that when you're cleaning up all the crack fill off your machine, you don't have to worry about damaging anything. This is everything along here is torch safe. So that's kind of the biggest observation.
And there's handles on the front now.
There are handles on the front.
So now we can load that sucker up a little bit easier.
But bringing it back to the dash, we've basically brought the thermocouple, which is in the starter valve right here in the igniter. So
nice. And
then the thermometer. So these are the 3 most sensitive controls on a machine.
Yes, sir.
They are the 3 most broken components on any machine.
Sure.
So by bringing these up into this dash, you've got a nice, steel dash here that protects it.
Yep.
The thermometer is battery powered. There's no more vibration or kind of broken needles or leaking fluid. And you can, it's cool, you can actually control and light your machine right here
at the dash.
So literally just push,
And we're in.
fire it up, you're good to go. You want to adjust the temperature, you can control your burner output right there.
Yep.
And that's kind of the premise of it. So that dash is nice because, again, everything's right here.
Yeah, it's
so
nice.
This is all I got to do.
All the functionality is right up here by our hands. The adjustments are up here by our hands. The agitators by our hands. The valve controls by our hands. It really makes the interface and the machine itself almost separate because the machine does its thing and we operate it from up here. And it's simplistic yet kind of what we need, listening to all the contractors, what we'd like.
Absolutely. So the final thing of our ergonomics that we just talked about was loading, right?
Yep.
You know, being able to lift the thing, get into a truck, and we kind of touched on the
handles. Yeah.
Kind of we call those, they're kind of like rhino horns.
I like it. I like it.
But yeah, just we put these down low because having a grab bar up here doesn't make much sense when you're loading in a truck.
Exactly.
You need leverage. The guy down here needs to get this up high. So what's nice is you can get down there, and when you lift it, you know, if you're getting onto a back of a truck, the person that's grabbing the bars is kind of up high, and you can kind of match them with it.
I like
that's
it.
Comfortable.
I like it. It's great.
So moving around from that, the next major thing is our valve. Give me a second. I'm going to see if I can get this in. So this is kind of the next major change this year is we've gone from a kind of welded valve, and I'll get Marvin to pull over to the Pro.
That would work.
And if we look at the Pro, you know, the Pro's got a pretty traditional valve, but basically a steel tube valve with the controller on the outside.
Yes.
And a lot of customers kind of told us, you know, they didn't like the fact that they had to preheat and sit with a torch.
Yes.
Because rubber would get stored inside that valve and solidify.
Yeah, not only what we encountered with that with our old machines before we started using the RynoWorx machine is that seal would wear out and we'd start to get rubber to come right out the end of that.
Yep.
You know, and it's always been a thing where it's like, well, you kind of know what's going to happen. How can we fix that thing?
So there's two main problems with the valve. You know, the first was the fact that, you know, as you mentioned, the material would solidify in there, and the second is just it's tight tolerance, but it's still you can only get it so tight because it leaks because of the nature of it.
Exactly.
So you're always working on controlling the drips, right?
Yep.
So our solution to that was we call this a Rhino Valve, but it's a one-piece valve assembly with a pin valve on the inside.
Yep.
And what this does, you can kind of look at this. It is a tight tolerance valve.
I see that.
Similar to that, like an engine valve inside a car engine. And the benefits of this are twofold. First, you can see when it's closed, it doesn't store any rubber inside the actual chambers.
Exactly.
So that means when you go to preheat, you don't need to sit here for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes
sure.
and heat that tube.
Sure.
You literally just got to flash it, to clean it out.
Yep.
And you're good to go.
I like it.
The second benefit is because of tight tolerances, once you've drained it, there's no leaking. Like you're not going to sit there, if you leave this machine sit for, 7, 8 minutes waiting or a half hour waiting,
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about it continuously, having more fluid coming out of your kettle and kind of going onto the ground. So that's the real benefits of the Rhino Valve. Some additional benefits are that this valve, unlike its predecessor, is fully removable.
Yeah.
So you can actually pull it off. And as far as being able to, if you did need to clean it, the cleaning and maintenance of this valve generally is just flash it with the torch.
Yes.
And all the residual that's inside the valve will just melt right out. Mm-hmm. But if you need to give it a thorough cleaning, it nicely comes apart. You can get in there with a Dremel.
Oh my goodness.
You can easily see, make sure that you're good and clean.
Yes.
And just like that, put her back together. It's an on-site cleanable valve.
If you had to, yes, you
So
could.
if you absolutely needed to, it's not a very big job.
That really makes it nice because at the end of the day, at the end of the season, if we're trying to clean our machines out, a lot of times we're trying to tilt them up sideways to get what we can get there, or tilt it away and try to get anything out of that valve. Another thing is after reheating and reheating with some of the crack filler, it'll crystallize in there.
Yep.
So then you're trying to get in there and pick it out or hammer it out in some way or another. We can remove this one, get to it easily with access, and essentially there's not going to be a bunch of buildup that we're going to have to reheat.
Exactly.
It makes your machine a lot more effective.
Yep. So that's the premise. Some other tweaks and adjustments we made that are still very important ones.
Yeah.
The kettle capacity is now 12.8 gallons instead of 10, so we're up almost 30% on internal capacity.
Nice.
The internal agitation in size has been adjusted so that we can actually facilitate 2 30-pound blocks from the very beginning.
Really?
So our current machines, I know that's been something that people have mentioned. And
yeah, you have to melt one down and then get another one in.
Yeah,
there.
so this machine you can load a full 2 30-pounders from the very beginning.
Very cool.
And that's designed to fit inside. Some other adjustments are we optimized the top part of the kettle for heat loss. We added a drainage slant so that if you overfill it, the overflow goes to the front, not to the back or to the sides. And you'll notice the lid opens to the back too, so any loading, splashing isn't going to hit your sensitive controls.
I like it.
You can load it if you're loading from a truck from left, right, or front. So you have 3-sided loading. That's another benefit. And then the venting which is more kind of cool, but also serves a function. Got that cool RynoWorx honeycomb pattern cut into it, which our fabricators hate us for because it takes 2 hours to cut these things out.
Sure.
But it actually serves a few purposes. One, less heat loss, so we get better retention from the actual burner inside. So more heating efficiency, believe it or not. And also it looks cool.
What did you not think of, Leigh? Because if you're worried about the backsplash on our controls, I can't think of what else you didn't think of for this thing.
We also did add a lid latch to the front to hold it down. And then I guess the other piece is the accessory torch that was an option on the Pros and still is.
Yes.
Is standard. We've got a nice little mount right to the left of the agitator on your bars. Some cable management over here for the hoses to keep them neat and tidy. And a secondary regulator to be able to fire up your torch. And not just there because, I mean, it doesn't matter when you're working, whether it's cold or warm, occasionally you're gonna have to heat up your crack fill shoe and clean things out here and there, and it's nice to be able to have that outside.
Yeah, the design seems that it's going to not only be more efficient, but keep everything cleaner as well, with guys in the field, because you have guys that care and guys that don't care, and if we can eliminate having to worry about it as much and things staying clean by keeping everything nice and efficient, that's what we're looking for.
And final kind of finishing touches, I didn't talk too much, but this is a bi-directional shoe, so you can spread forward and backward with crack fill.
Oh, let's take a look. Yeah.
So there's actually a double purpose, but there's a drip catch on the front for residual. When you drop that down, it actually drives. So you can actually drag forward or backward.
I like it.
So if you put a little too much crack fill and you're at the end of the crack, you can double back over and get rid of that residual, which is sort of nice. Keep a nice tidy job.
All right, so that's a good 10 minutes or so of this thing, and that's the most detail I've got out of Leigh on one machine for right now, which is good. They're excited. It seems like stuff's eliminated. The issues are eliminated that we're kind of dealing with in the field, and I'm excited to see it get used and hear the feedback from everybody. So you can always get a hold of Leigh. You guys know that. And if you have any questions through me, you can do that. But Leigh, thanks again, man. I like it.
Thanks for the time today, and looking forward to this.
All right, me too, man. MPE 2020, they're going to be here a long time. So if you didn't get here this year and you're curious about these RynoWorx, I've seen that Leigh's been at a few different shows. They're going to be at MPE 2021. I'm darn sure of it. So let's go ahead and get back and do our thing and get back here in 2021, man.